Welcome to today's edition of the 2024 Rome and Floyd County High School Football Preview Show Series. WLAQ Sports sits down with each area head coach to discuss the upcoming season. Here are your hosts, Matt Davis and Ian Griffin.
Hello, football fans, and welcome to the 2024 Rome Wolves Football Preview Show presented by WLAQ Sports. We're glad to be joined by the head coach of the Rome Wolves, John Reid. Coach, thanks for stopping by and talking football with us.
Well, thank you, Ian. Good to see you, Matt. Whenever I see Matt, I know it's about time for football. Of course, I've been doing it all summer, so it's nothing new.
Of course, this time is a little bit different because usually I'm coming out to the school and I got my microphone and my little recorder, and now we got all the cameras and the lights and all that kind of stuff going on. So it's a little bit different of a situation, but we appreciate you, coming out to the radio station and give us some time today. We're excited.
Yeah, I like this. This setup's pretty cool. It's a little better than Matt coming to me shuffling papers around, and this is pretty neat. This is professional. We're gonna have a great show.
We're excited, very excited.
Yeah, we're excited to be here, and we'll jump right in. Coach, when we were prepping for the show, I was like, it was about 10 years ago, I was at Steeplechase, and Will Byington comes walking up to me. He's like, I got somebody you need to meet. And he introduced me to you, and after that conversation with you, I remember talking to Matt the next Monday. I was like, I think Rome has got their guy. Just was pumped up about everything you had to say and your vision for the program. This will be your 10th season.
Yes, sir.
So let's reflect back on what you've accomplished a little bit as you get ready to start that 10th season.
Well, I was looking at a post somebody sent me the other day, and there's been and I can't get the numbers exactly right, but we have three of the top all-time of the top 30 all-time scorers in touchdowns in the history in this last 10 years. That's Jemias, Knox, and Reese now. They're responsible for touchdowns. And there's so many records. Jemias has broken Herschel Walker's all-time record and all those things. We've won 97 games. We're going to go over, hopefully, I hope we'll go over 100 wins, and we've won 97 games in 9 years. That's a lot of wins, and a lot of great things have happened at the stadium. A lot of good football players. I have a graduation wall of kids that have went off and played football and already have graduated from college, and that's got 15 players on it now. Not to mention the ones that didn't graduate or go play football, but they have graduated. We have numerous ones playing for us. Last year we signed 10 kids that got scholarship money. They were either Division II or above. And that just adds to the new massive amount of the kids that we've been able to run through that program just by good, solid hard work and a good plan.
Well, Coach, obviously Ian just referenced the fact that you are now the longest tenured coach here in Rome and Floyd County. You've been here those 10 years. And so obviously this community you've really embraced and has really embraced you. So the next question I wanted to ask you, Coach, is what has made Rome such a special place for you and your wife and your family and has kept you here?
I just think that it's just a well-rounded community. It has a lot of for everybody here. It's people have a lot of pride in Rome. And it reminds me of a place where I was at a few years back was Alcoa, Tennessee, where we built the same type of program there. Football is important. But the community is important to everybody in this town, and people seem to love being here, and that was important to Julie and I. And we wanted to bring some pride to the community as far as it's the state of Georgia. So there's no better high school football in the world. I mean, and I tell that to our kids all the time. This is the best football in the world. They go, "How do you know?" I go, "Well, we're the best football team playing. One of the best in the world that plays it." But we wanted to bring some pride, a local team that competed at the highest level and filled the stands for people to root on, and I think we've done that. People walk up to me all the time and say, "Coach, you've made Friday nights exciting for us," and I think we've done that. We've not only been great on defense, but we've scored a lot of points, and we've been, for lack of a better word, kind of flashy, exciting, volatile at times, where explosive, and that's the kind of football we wanted to bring, and kind of a standard, like a uniform that's always the same and a tradition. So we were proud to be able to do that. And we're still working on it.
Yeah, I mean, so far in 9 seasons, 2 state championships. Those came back to back. 2 more trips to the semifinals, 6 region titles. So close to other championships as we were talking about before we went on the air. What does it take to sustain that kind of success? Because every year Rome is in the conversation for a championship.
Well, I think that the one thing, and this would be a great for young coaches that would be listening and so forth is every year you've got to reinvent yourself. And I don't mean change everything, but what I do mean by that is as soon as the season's over, and parts of the way during the season, I make notes on what we're going to do next year once we finish doing what we're doing this year. And I think that the question was sustainability. And I think what helps you to be able to sustain is to look at what you need to change to make things better. And so every year we start out and we say, this is how we're doing this, and this. We're not just going to say, well, this is how we do it around here. And I think you would look for that in a sustainability answer, but that's not. Sustainability for us is embracing change and finding new ways to do it. And so I think that we've always been able to do that, whether it's practice schedule. We changed the practice schedule just this week a little bit to tweak some things we saw in OTAs. And I think that's what keeps us going, perpetuates what we're doing, the motion we're going forth. If not, you get stagnant.
We've got Coach John Reid with us, head coach for the Rome Wolves. And, Coach, one of the things we were talking about just before we went on the air with this broadcast is talking about your quarterback situation that you've had over the years, because in your 10 years here, there's been a couple of situations where you've had a guy that has been a starter at least part of all 4 years. So you've had a guy that got starts as a freshman in a couple of different situations. So that's, I would think, fairly unusual. So what does it take to develop guys, have young guys like that enables them to get out there and compete for that many years as a young player through a senior?
Yeah, that's a great question. And like I said, I think we were talking before we got on the air here that, it's happened to me at a couple other places also. And I think one of the things is that I've always been a kind of a guy who comes in and rebuilds programs. And so I've never really been able to stay at a place where the program is turned over to me. And I've never stayed been at a place where, I just, like I said, I guess turned over to me, or I never got to go to a place that had a great winning tradition. So with that being said, a lot of times coaches get fired or they leave when there's a quarterback problem. And so I've taken over like where in our case, when we got here in 2015, there wasn't very many quarterbacks. And so our offensive coordinator at the time, Chris Bowden, started talking to me about this skinny kid that might have to start for us. And I go, it's not that kid over there. And he goes, yeah. And that ended up being Knox Kadum. So one of the things you got to get him in the weight room, and there's got to be a plan to lifting. It's a different style. So how do you make this kid a great athlete and get improved speed and flexibility and all that stuff? You got to start teaching him quarterback skills. You got to start teaching him film study and all that stuff. We've been lucky enough to have that type of kid, and then Reese kind of followed that footsteps the same way. I'd rather if wouldn't have to be that young, because those kids take some hard knocks. Knox Knox got knocked around as a freshman, and he shouldn't have probably been in there. But like I said, we were rebuilding a program, and him and Jemias were in there early. If you remember back at Ware County, they took us to that level, but they also had some problems at that level as freshmen. They shouldn't be playing at 6A level, so that happened to Reese a little bit, but. Like I said, I think it's mainly the thing about it is that you got to start developing their bodies, and you got to get lucky enough to have a kid that's kind of got a quarterback mentality. Obviously, those kids felt the game, and one of some of the best things about Knox and Reese is they were winners.
Yeah, I mean, I think anybody that's watched the Rome Wolves, anybody that was there watching on television or at the Georgia Dome, that read option play where he pulled and scored the touchdown is maybe one of the most legendary plays in local high school football history.
Yeah, I think the beauty there is, and this is the great story behind it if you want to reminisce a little bit, Jemias had gotten hurt, and Sykes had hurt his knee in the playoffs. So Nick Burge, as a freshman, was playing running back that whole second half. And so we called timeout because I saw Buford coming off the edge, and really Knox pulled a ball on a power play that he'd never pulled the ball on that play. I said, listen, they're coming off the edge. And I told little Nick, I go, listen, he's going to put it in there. Don't squeeze it. Because he was thinking about that being a freshman. Yeah. To run the ball in the dome and a crowd that was unheard of. And it hasn't been repeated since then. It's just the greatest crowd I've ever seen in high school football in Georgia.
Anybody that was there will never forget that. Yeah. And, of course, you and I were both lucky enough to be there, along with a lot of people from Rome, the surrounding area, and it's a tremendous amount of fun. It really was.
Yeah, I looked up from field level. I'm like, man, there's a lot of people up there. And I looked up another level. I'm like, there's people up there.
Yeah.
And they're seldom awesome up there in the state games.
Well, it looks like we're up against our first break, but we are very excited to have Coach John Reid from the Rome Wolves with us here on the program. And we do want to, and I know we've been kind of obnoxious about this in our previews, but we want likes and we want you to subscribe. And the reason for that is because we want to be able to continue to bring content locally, talk about high school sports, things of that nature as much as possible. So we appreciate your support.
We sure do.
All right, we're going to go ahead and take a break. We'll be back with Coach Reid after these messages.
Riverside Auto Group is celebrating 50 years in Rome and Northwest Georgia. Join the celebration and shop for your next car, truck, or SUV from Riverside Auto Group. Browse their selection online at riversideautogroup.com or visit with them in person at Riverside Chevrolet GMC in Rome, Riverside Toyota in Rome, or Riverside GMC Cadillac in Cartersville. Locally owned and operated by the Welburn family since 1974. That's Riverside Auto Group.
All right, we'll welcome you back into our head coach's preview here with the head coach of the Rome Wolves. John Reid joins us here in the studio, and we're glad that you've chosen to spend some time with us today as we talk about Rome Wolves and get ready for the season, which is almost here. And I don't know about you, Coach, but it feels like to me, just as a broadcaster and somebody that's a fan and enthusiast, it feels like it gets here quicker every year in some ways. I can only imagine what it feels like for the coaching staff.
You know, in Georgia, we are allowed to do a lot of good stuff with the kids in the summer. I think it's really good for the kids. And so after you get through that 4th of July break, and sometimes how it swings, like this year, it's really tight, man. We came back to July 8th, and we are right up against it. We have just a few of those summer acclimation workouts, and then you're in full pads. And earlier this year, because the GHSA is allowed since August 1st, fall's different, allowed in pads on July 29th.
Wow. Well, that actually leads us into our next question. We were going to ask you about your coaching staff that you just referenced. So if you wouldn't mind, tell us who you got a part of your staff this year.
Well, on offense, we got Coach Steve Humphrey. He's doing the quarterback's offensive coordinator, and his receivers coach is Will Spohr. He's back again, and Will has got some experience. He was at Sprayberry as an offensive coordinator. He's been around for a while and does a great job. We got Jason King back at running backs. So he's been a running backs coach in the past, and he took a year off and went to another school, and now he's back, and the kids are thrilled to have him back. I think he's really excited about it. And then we got Josh Woodard as our new offensive line coach. Our offensive line coach, Buck Hansen, went back to South Georgia. Buck did a great job for us, a good man. And if you ever met Buck Hansen, you'd really appreciate that. On defense, so we got Dana Arthurs, our defensive coordinator. He coaches inside linebackers. And then Chris McFarland coaches the outside linebackers, which he's got a real fun outside linebacker named Jaden Harmon he gets to coach every day. Muhammad Abdalif is our secondaries coach. And
used to be at Almerchi for several years in Kennesaw Mountain. Is that where he most recently was?
Yeah, and he's been with us. This will be his third year. And he's really great with the kids in the strength department. The way his knowledge of the strength is, I used to be really good at that. But I would do everything he does now because I would throw away what I did because the flexibility, the different apparatus he's able to use in our new weight room is really great. Who am I missing? We got Garrett McFarland does the defensive line. And then this year, he's using the system we use. He's really good at it. And then this year, I'm coaching the defensive ends. So last year, I coached running backs.
Excellent. Well, Coach, we'll jump into some X's and O's here in just a minute, but I did want to ask you about your summer workout schedule and also the advantage of having the indoor practice facility when you're dealing with the wet bulb and keeping these kids safe during the summer.
The thing that was aggravating to me, and for me, practice is everything. I mean, it is my stress because that's where you get better. And what was aggravating for me was the fact that a lot of our football team, and not only that, but a lot of our athletes weren't able to continue practicing in wet weather. But what we've also found, and it gives our softball and soccer and all those guys the opportunity to get in there, we also found is that it's, like you mentioned, you were smart enough to figure this one out, is it with the fans going on there, it only gets 89 degrees in there. It's as hot as it gets. And so it's a huge advantage because the wet bulb is not a problem when we go inside.
That's awesome.
And we've used it more for that than,
Well, let's talk a little bit more about your approach to summer workouts, what you guys have been doing to get prepared for this season.
Well, I think that the key to our summer workouts is, and I think ours are unique to anybody's in Georgia, is that you got to take the kid in mind and what a kid would like to do, and they don't want to they don't want to lift and throw all summer, and that's what a lot of people get. They're gonna lift and throw. So we really change ours up, and so we have what we call a grind day where it's traditional, and you come in and you lift and you watch film, and then the next day we call it a play day. So we switch everything, and the kids sign up to do what? Play. And so they play the ones, twos, threes all day and all that. And the next day is, and I told Muhammad, we can only be in the weight room 2 days in a row. The third day is an apparatus day where you're outside. So everything is a sled, a sand pit, a tire, a sledgehammer, a bag press. Everything is outside. We call it a circuit. And we culminate that circuit on the last one, which is next week. We turn it into a round robin, where as many stations you go to, you get a rubber band every time you go to a station. So there's 8 stations, 2 water stations. You go bam, 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 bam. And then every time you hit one, and we'll give them 30 minutes. Go to as many as you can get to. You got to go in order. Catch a rubber band every time you go to one. Coach gives you a rubber band. We add up the rubber bands. We give out cleats, gloves, jersey, whatever, all kind of prizes, food prizes, stuff like that. So it's kind of a cool way to culminate your summer. I guess what I'm trying to get across to you is that we try to make it interesting. You're eating up your summer. We go early. We teach that this is how you become a man. You get up out of bed and you do your job. So I think it's I enjoy it.
And it really is interesting the way you describe that. It just seems like, in that situation, it just keeps moving and all that kind of stuff. And we certainly live in a society where you got a lot of stuff going on and all that kind of stuff. So to keep things popping and moving, I think young people, they probably respond to that pretty well, don't you think?
There's some more intricacies to it that's really cool. Like during the circuit day, I'll blow there's an air horn. As soon as I hit the air horn, everybody knows first air horn, something's coming up. So everybody gathers, and I say PAT. And if we don't make a PAT, we don't make a field goal right then and there, we go back 2 stations. Next air horn, perfect punt. It's got to be a perfect snap and a 30-yard punt. If we don't make it, so we try to put pressure on the special teams and stuff like that. It's really neat. And that day is also what we call a blitz day. So everything we do that day after we're done with the circuit is all blitzes. So whether we're working on it or working on picking them up, it's neat.
Coach, we've talked about kind of the method to the summer workouts. Let's talk about some of the kids. Earlier we talked about how you've had a lot of kids who've contributed early, so that leads to familiar names for a lot of the fans. Right. You graduated some great seniors last year, so who are some of the names and faces we'll see a lot of this season? Well,
I think you're going to be surprised by some. I think the defensive line will start there is going to be quicker, but a little bit smaller possibly. We'll figure that out. J.J. Chapman's coming back from a knee injury that he had at Pebblebrook last year. So we'll see how he factors in there. He'll be full go by the time the season's there. Of course, you got a youngster that was really good last year, had a bunch of sacks, and that's Dash Kinnebrew, will be a junior this year. And so he'll be really good at defensive end. A basketball player that you've probably seen on the basketball court, Marquez Elston, will be another defensive end, and Tim Perkins will be out there at defensive end. And with Dathan Hasselrig, who's been waiting his chance to be a defensive lineman, he'll be really good this year. And then you got Jazz Williams and some other guys inside that'll fill in. A big old kid, Nasir Jones, 6'5", about 300 pounds, will be another D tackle. So we'll be really leaning heavily on them. And back there behind him is some experienced linebackers. And Parco Smith was the middle backer last year. And then Kramer will be another one that's going to be in there as a will backer. Outside there and at Sam again will be Harmon, who's one of the best in the country. And I'm not just saying that, he's one of the best in the country. He's committed to Alabama, which shows his level of play. And then the safety, deep safety, is Ryan Sykes, who's also is committed to Boston College. And then at corner will be another bunch of guys, maybe Toot Stallings, Tenarius Stallings, Adrian, Jordan will be there. Some other guys who are just fighting for that spot, Ragsdale. Some other guys are going to fill in that spot. So that's pretty much the defense. Offensively, you got a bunch of offensive linemen returning. You got Will Byington at center. He's an all-region type guy. Mason Worsham at left guard. He's an all-region type guy. TJ McClintock is a right guard, big old kid, about 300 pounds. We've got some other kids, Devin McCoy, and some other guys fighting for some spots. Andrew Smith is a left tackle. Gary Wright's another good left tackle. And then you got Jameel Williams, Division I kid at right tackle, has been there for 3 years. Quarterback, you got Moss Tant, who was the JV quarterback last year. Tall kid, got a good arm. And you have a couple kids that are young behind him. Braxton Anderson's got a shot. And then Aiden McPherson is a sophomore. Transfer from Alatoona, is really quick and it could be really exciting on Friday nights. Chance Arthur, running back. Javarius McDermott, running back. 2 Division I kids. I think the strength is probably running back, offensive line, and the receiver core. Darnell Collins was at one point in time a 5-star. Had a little blip in his schedule. He's back as a junior. Will be fantastic. You got J.J. Winston, a basketball player that can jump out of the gym if you ever seen him play. Yep. Tenarius Stallings, just one of the best return kids, and then Brajon Jackson. So there's 4 good receivers. So as you do try to replace an all-state quarterback, it'd be harder to replace an all-state quarterback if you didn't have anybody to throw to. Get the ball out to those good guys, and good things will happen.
Absolutely. Sounds like the depth's there. So it's going to be an exciting season for the Rome Wolves.
No doubt. And did we touch on special teams there?
We did not. Yeah.
Let's jump
what's
into
the
that.
kicking situation?
Well, we've got some punting this year. Will be Brajon is got some skill at punting, and then we've got we got a little kicker there that's also going to be the holder, and we call him what's his nickname? Little Bit or whatever it is, but he's going to be fantastic. And then we have I can't think of we got a really, really good kicker that's coming back, boots the ball in the end zone about every time. He's going to be fantastic. So we got some depth at kicker that's going to be great for us. Alex is our kicker.
Okay.
And he's come off the soccer team. He's got a powerful leg. Fantastic. He's on the borderline of me recommending him to schools because he can boot it. So that's really good.
The game against Langston Hughes showed how quick special teams can just blow a game wide open.
We just talked to him about that this morning. Yeah. And then we were able to develop. We have a system in our practice, so we were able to develop kickers. We had Jacob last year that kicked 3 field goals or 4 against Thomas County Central. Never kicked a field goal in the game before. These kids, when they first come out, can't even get it over the upright. But as we develop their skills and stuff like that, if you guys golf, kicking is just like hitting a drive. If you can teach hitting a drive, it's for me, and that's just how we teach them. So we've been very successful at kickers.
Well, Matt, I know we're getting close to being up against our next break. We come back, talk a little style of play, X's and O's, but right now we just want to thank everybody for tuning in to the Rome High School preview show with head coach John Reid, presented by WLAQ Sports. Like and subscribe to the channel, please.
We'll be right back.
Riverside Auto Group is celebrating 50 years in Rome and Northwest Georgia. Join the celebration and shop for your next car, truck, or SUV from Riverside Auto Group. Browse their selection online at riversideautogroup.com or visit with them in person at Riverside Chevrolet GMC in Rome, Riverside Toyota in Rome, or Riverside GMC Cadillac in Cartersville. Locally owned and operated by the Welburn family since 1974. That's Riverside Auto Group.
Welcome back to the Rome High School 2024 preview show. We're here with head coach John Reid of the Rome Wolves. And, Coach, let's jump into the X's and O's. You were talking about how sustained success requires embracing change. So I know you work with the personnel that you have. What are we going to see on offense, defense, special teams this year?
Well, I think that's an interesting question. And like I said, we do embrace change. And so what we do is we start out in the offseason early on, really the week after the season, and we just start – how do people play us? Who's on our schedule? And what's the game, like? And so we put percentages up there. Here's the formations we see. Here's what people, how they try to attack us. And so we'll be still basically, a 4-3 cover 2 team is what I've been for years. But none of that looks like that. People try to disguise their schemes and stuff like that. So, I think you got to get Harmon involved in the game. Last year, we were able to use him in a lot of different ways. that's what we do a lot of study on what's the trends in the offenses. And then from us offensively, as you saw last year, we really try to force that window where are you going to take your guy out of the box? If you do, we're going to run it. And hopefully that'll be one of our successes with those running backs and that good offensive line.
Got Coach John Reid with us. One of the things that we wanted to touch in our broadcast today is talking a little bit about reclassification. Obviously, it happens every couple of years. And so there's some changes, some similarities, those sorts of things. But tell us a little bit about the region you're going to be in this year, differences, some of the similarities, things of that sort.
Well, I think that every so often the GHSA, it stretches out to 7A, and then everybody gets mad about the travel, and then they squeeze it back down to 6A. So we're squeezed back down. And so what it does in this state, and the football is so good, guys, that it just makes every division a little more competitive. If you look at some of the even the single A and 2A regions, like the region down there with Vidalia and Swainsboro and all those, that thing is unbelievable strong. You got Toombs County and all those. And then you look at some of these other regions that have been combined together, like Houston County and, well, I used to call it Houston, but, those things are gauntlets. Just so now, I think a region championship is going to be a lot bigger prize. Think about that. When you squeeze it down like that, the competition to be a state champion at this level, when you squeeze it down to 6 levels, it is going to be incredible.
We've only got a couple more questions for you, and I know Ian's got the final one coming up in just a couple of moments. But, Coach, it's obvious just from talking to anybody watching this, can see the passion that you have, the love you have for the sport and what you do, and you've been doing it for a long time. So tell us a little bit about what it is that you love about it so much that keeps you, with that fire, that competitive spirit and that whole thing and wanting to come back and keep doing this.
Well, I think it starts, you got this big lump of clay and you try to mold it into a beautiful sculpture. And so I'm just so glad that I'm in the state of Georgia because the challenge is immense. Like, you got to have everything in line, and you have to have facilities, and you got to have equipment, and you have to have players, and you have to have coaching. And that's what's so great about running a program like this is there's so many facets. I mean, it's just like you take picture day to day, 2 cameras and moving here and all that. There's so many pieces that have to be right, and you have a good coaching staff like ours to be able to help with that. You can't do it without good coaches, and that's one of the biggest things that keeps me around is seeing those guys evolve and get better. And like I said, it's just an immense challenge. And if you like challenges in your life, then that gets passion. If you're not passionate about this challenge, you're going to get run over.
Oh, I can't even imagine it. Can't imagine it.
There's a book out there written by one of the guys in Afghanistan called No Easy Day. I think about that every day, man. There's no easy day in our profession.
Well, Coach, to wrap things up, you've reached the top of the mountain several times in your career. You've multiple stops. You've won championships. We've said it earlier in the show. Rome is in the conversation now every year. When people think of Rome High football, they think of champions. Describe what it takes to get there, and then what continues to drive you to get back to the mountaintop?
One of the reasons is, and I think it's the same reason people climb the highest mountains, because it's there. If you want to hire a coach that's not satisfied with nothing but the best, and if there's a state championship out there in whatever sport it is, I'm going after it. And I think that's the kind of person you want around your kids. You're not always going to get it, but the process teaches them a lot. Like, our kids get up at 7 a.m. to come to football workouts. You can't forget that as a 30-year-old man. You got up, you're capable of doing it. So I think that's what drives me. It's just such, like I said to Matt's question, it's just such a challenge. Like, some coaches are going to be really, really good in their career, and they're never going to get the chance to win a state championship because it didn't fall in all places. They're just as good as I am, and as my programs have been. That's what the beauty of it is every year that's out there, and that's a possibility. And wherever, like I always tell the kids, we're going to end up the season with it in our hand or somewhere, but this is going to take a good team to beat us. And we mentioned that we've lost to Carrollton in the last 2 years and the state championship in 6A. That's pretty doggone good. Is it good enough for, you still fall short, but sometimes you got to sit back and reflect that that's a lot. These young men achieved a lot. Some kids are never going to win a region championship in their whole life, and our kids win one almost every year.
Yeah, it's amazing what you've accomplished, and Would like to get your thoughts on the Rome community and what the school has done to back the program along the way as well before we wrap up.
Well, that's the thing is you get out and you get amongst the community and you show them that these kids matter to you. That's the first thing we did is we met people and they saw that these kids are important to us. The kids that go to our school are important. Our student section loves to come to the games. That makes me. That's okay. Well, let's talk about that. That's why I want to do it. When I look at that student section, I know these kids are doing something on Friday nights. They love being at the games. That gets me going. And so, once you show the community that you care about kids, the community will help you out, and they'll get involved. And that's what's been great about this community is they love it. And we're going to try to every year to put something on the field that they want to come out and see on Friday, or at least support.
Yeah.
Well, Coach, we know you're a very, very busy man this time of year and really throughout the rest of the year as well. And we just want to take this opportunity on behalf of WLAQ and the fans out there, for giving us some time today. It's always a pleasure to catch up with you and talk some Rome Wolves football.
Oh, it's great. I enjoy doing it. We can do it next week if you want. I'll talk about the Rome Wolves every day.
Well, we'll have to make that work, yeah.
Now we've got the new studio. We'll have to have you out more often and catch up on how things are going during the season.
That's right. We'll do it.
Yeah. Good luck this season. Go Wolves.
Go Wolves.
All right, appreciate it, guys. Go Wolves! Yeah, heck yeah. Well, it's not too far off.
No,
and now's the part of the show where we ask one more time: like and subscribe.
That's right.
And stay in touch.
We'll bring you more content like this if you do that.
That's exactly right. Well, again, best of luck to the Rome Wolves this year, and thank you for your time, Coach.
Appreciate it, Mac. Thanks, Ian.
Thank you.
It's going to put a wrap on our show. This has been the 2024 Rome Wolves football preview show with Coach John Reid. We hope you have a wonderful day, and thank you for tuning in.
Hope you enjoyed this edition of the 2024 Rome and Floyd County High School football preview shows presented by WLAQ Sports. Make sure you hit like and subscribe to our channel for more local content from the WLAQ Radio YouTube channel.